Hello, seminary scholars. I want to take this video to kind of recap where we have been, share a little bit of feedback, talk about where we're headed, and then end with a short devotional thought. First of all, we started out week 1 writing our own definition of spiritual formation. Then, this past week, you took an assessment of your current personal spiritual formation. You also practiced an act of worship, which we will be doing every other week throughout this class. A little bit of feedback. First of all, great start to all of you. Thank you for all of your posts and the way you have truly dug in to these assignments. Continue to use these discussion posts to build relationships. And you do that through continuing to be very authentic and sharing experiences, sharing yourself with one another. Let me assure you that you being vulnerable in this space, in this bright space, is perfectly safe because this space is filled with grace and mercy and prayer support. I also want to encourage you to carefully read the prompts for each one of the posts. Each week, the prompt tells you exactly what you need to do, when you need to post, and how many replies you need to make. Now, perhaps some of you that have done online learning before have some great suggestions how to help the rest of us stay on schedule. But make sure that you are reading those carefully because points are attached to those, and I really want you to get all of the points. Another piece of feedback is the expectation is for you to add value to each one of your replies from the posts of the other students. So in other words, you're not just sharing, oh, I really liked that, but rather you're digging into that content. You're asking good questions, and perhaps you're adding a resource or something that you learned along the way. One of the expectations of all of you is that you're reading outside of your classes, and those resources can be very helpful for not only growing your learning, but for growing all of our learning. So make sure that you post those resources so that we can all benefit. Remember, we use Chicago for our style, and I know it's a learning process. We'll all learn together, but let's just start using it so that we get used to it. Also, those of you that have been perhaps collecting resources over time, you may want to share with us in one of your posts, what is the method that you use? What tools, what digital tools do you find to be most helpful for sharing, saving your documents, sharing your resources, and then being able to access them and share them at the appropriate time? Also, I want to encourage all of you to communicate with me. Over communicate, send me emails, text me, whatever it takes. Let's just make sure that you and I are on the same page. I want you to be successful, so I want to work with you. I am also going to do my very best to provide detailed and helpful feedback to you on each one of the things that I grade. Again, I want you to be successful. And so I will try to help you be all that you can be in this class. And just a reminder, I pray for you all daily. So week 3, where are we headed? Well, this week you're going to be reading an article by Dr. Keith Drury. It's entitled, How Christians Change. And you're going to be exploring your own personal transformation process. I want you to dig really deep into the process, into the changes that have occurred in your life. And I want you to be very vulnerable and honest with us as you post. And I'm probably going to be asking you, what's your next step in this change process? I want to conclude today with just a devotional thought. You may remember that I left a little devotional under Acts of Worship for you to read, and it included one of Jesus's miracles with the 5,000, the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. And the gist of it was that God takes what is limited and he makes it unlimited. It has limitless possibilities. And that is exactly what can happen in our lives. We are enough if we are his, and God will transform us into exactly who he needs us and who he has created us to be. At the end of that scripture in John 6, at verse 15, I'd like to read this to you and point out something that I think can be a challenge for us as we continue in the class. So remember, Jesus has just done a miracle, and the multitude says, "Oh my goodness, I think that this is the prophet who's come into the world," and they want to make him king. But remember, Jesus is already king, and being the earthly king, that's not part of the plan. So in verse 15, Jesus, knowing that they intend to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. There's a little word in verse 15 I want to point out to you. Again. Jesus withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Now, if I'm honest with you, when I retreat with Jesus, it's not usually after a huge victory. I'm usually ready to charge the next hill. Typically, I draw away, and I'm not proud of this, but I'm being honest. I draw away when I'm at my lowest, when stress has overcome me, and when I realize, I need to spend some time listening to him. I need to get connected to my Father. So, what I would like to challenge all of us to do is to remember the again. Jesus withdrew again rhythmically. He had some sort of intentionality that he practiced when he withdrew with the Father. And so I want to challenge all of us as we begin thinking about our spiritual formation, when we start looking at the various spiritual disciplines, the means of grace that God can use in our lives to transform us when we intentionally place ourselves at his feet. I want to challenge us to begin thinking about that right now. When are the intentional times that we can begin to practice drawing away with him? Now, some of us here in the United States are looking at a little holiday weekend, and maybe this is a good time for us to say, not what can we add to our lives, but what can we do to make some extra space for Jesus? And perhaps this Labor Day weekend can challenge you to find a little extra space. Seminary scholars, I'm praying for you. We are Wesley, and you belong here.